Now, here are your hosts, Captain Ed Mehmet and Detective Kevin Schroeder.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cop Talk. I'm Kevin Schroeder, your host. I'm here with my co-host, the great Captain.
Hello, everybody. Here I am again with a very interesting guest who we've had on before, and I think she has a lot more to say than last time.
Before we start our show, I'd just like to send our thoughts and prayers to the family of Charlie Kirk. What a tragedy, what a shame, what a murder. But our thoughts and prayers go out to his family at this time.
And we have to introduce Pete.
Today's guest is Pete Panucci, retired NYPD Sergeant. NYPD, I had the privilege of working with you, Pete.
Yes.
Some great times, some great cases. And, of course, our guest is Maud Maron. She's the Republican nominee for she's a candidate for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. We'll be running against Bragg. I hope we get rid of Bragg. With that said, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Great to be in person this time.
So, Maud, can you tell our audience, our listeners, your background, where you grew up, where you're from?
Yeah, sure. Originally New Yorker. I was born here on the Upper East Side, but grew up mostly in Pennsylvania. Came back here to go to college. Went to law school, got married, had 4 kids, worked as a public defender at the Legal Aid Society. I worked in the Manhattan Criminal Defense Division. I worked in the Bronx. I worked in their training division, training new lawyers, newly hired public defenders, in the many things you have to learn to get into court, to be a public defender. And did that for a little bit over 2 decades, 22 years. Then I took some time off and my kids were in school and I got very involved in doing a lot of education advocacy with the public schools in the de Blasio years. De Blasio had some of the worst ideas across a whole range of issues, but in education, his ideas were particularly bad. And I founded an education advocacy group, and we did a lot of work trying to oppose his bad ideas and promote our better ideas and really the ideas of like making public school education excellent. And I decided to run for office, and I ran as a common sense Democrat. I should also say I was a Democrat for 33 years. And I ran as a common sense Democrat, and I actually sought and got the PBA endorsement back then in 2021 when I was running, because I really thought the defund the police idea and all the decarceration, close Rikers idea, I just thought they were terrible ideas. And I said that as both just a regular citizen living in the city, but also as someone who had worked in the courthouse. You know, whether you're a public defender or a prosecutor, you know how the court works. And I thought the defund the police idea was radical, ideological, and just not sensible, right? It just wasn't, I still think the same thing. I mean, I think it's ridiculous. And that didn't work. The Democratic primary voter really wanted people who promoted radical ideas. And the guy who won that seat, very radical, claimed that he wanted to defund the police by more than anybody else. And so he won. And I got you figure things out. You think, I don't know if I said this to you before, but forgive me, I'm going to say it again. There's a Sex and the City episode where the tagline is like, he's just not that into you. And a little bit I started to get that feeling with the Democratic Party, like they're just not that into me. I'm too sensible. I'm too moderate. And the Democratic primary voter in New York City has moved very far left. Right. And to fast forward to present day, when I decided to run for Manhattan District Attorney against Alvin Bragg, who's also an extreme radical and extreme leftist, I decided to run as a Republican. And I think my claim that the Democratic primary voter has gotten so far left was really borne out in the mayoral primary, where we saw Zohran Mamdani win the primary because he's an extreme radical. Right. And for me, I'm really nervous about living in a Manhattan with a Mamdani mayor and a Bragg Manhattan district attorney.
Like we all are.
Yeah.
My great concern is who he's going to appoint as police commissioner, because he's the chief executive, and the commissioner has to follow the instructions of the mayor.
Of course.
And I'm trying to think in my head who he would have. I wouldn't want to be the police commissioner under this dude.
I was going to recommend you.
Yeah, I was saying,
I would like you to be the police commissioner.
You're my nominee.
I'm turning it down.
I mean, I'll tell you, the New York Post did a little spread. I think it was the Post of his advisors, like the people that are, and we're talking like 26-year-old socialists and kids who are, who have no real life experience, his brain trust is more radical than he is.
Right. And those, young folks you're talking about are not from New York, probably. They're from Michigan somewhere.
He's
out
not
west.
from New York.
Right.
And he hasn't even been
True.
a citizen. This past 9/11, when the various remembrances were going on, like, he didn't live in this country during 9/11. It's like he's very out of touch with, but for his small, he had these very enthusiastic, this is Mamdani, he had that very enthusiastic base, but I don't think he has an ability to reach across to anyone else who thinks differently than him.
Now, what about the students living on campus in Columbia University, say, New York, or NYU for that matter, down the village? Can they vote, even though they live in Chicago?
If you're registered to vote when you're,
so they can use this as a residence, being a student
if you're registered to vote, you can. I mean, look, old folks vote a lot more than young people. I don't, who's ever registered now is registered. They can vote, but I think it's more. I think some of what we saw more was the sort of the grassroots campaigning. Like he had a lot of energy to get people out to door knock and to, do canvassing and do that kind of stuff. I've seen some commentary of people saying like Mamdani got as many votes as he's going to get. And I think that's probably an accurate
I agree with that.
I hope it's an accurate assessment, but I think it is. Yeah. So the people who voted for him in the primary will vote for him again in the general. I don't think he expands his base beyond what he got there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, but I will say, I hope that to be true. So you always have to be aware of thinking things that you wish to be true.
We discussed this a few minutes ago.
Okay.
And I give props to the guy who said it, Seth Barron, and he said he brought everything he had to the primary. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no reserves. There's no backup battalions. Most of the if you're a halfway rational person in New York City, you're like, I am not going near this. This is bad.
Yeah.
And the guy he speaks with forked tongue. Okay. Forget it with the rent freeze, free buses. And I engage a lot with young people on these topics, and I'm like, and they'll, free buses, that's great. And you throw the question out at them, who's paying for it? What do you mean? Like, well, you have to buy buses. You have to put fuel in them. You have to pay people to drive them. Do you think this just comes out of thin air?
Doesn't?
And that's when I realized that a lot of the young people just not grasping basic concepts of how life actually unfolds. I don't know how we got here. It's insane.
Yeah. But I agree with more than you as well, Pete, in regards to he may have just got as many votes as he'll get, and he's done, and he may even get less when it comes to the general election. So I hope we're right.
Well, I am running against Alvin Bragg, so I am one of the, I don't know if it's a positive or negative, but the mayor's race is sucking a lot of oxygen out of the conversation, and I'm trying to make sure as many people know as possible that Alvin Bragg who he is, what his job is, that we can get rid of him, because people do know, and they don't need to be convinced, that their communities are less safe, they're dirtier, they're grimier, they have people. We all know the experience of like walking into a drugstore and having to call someone to come unlock a shelf to get, your basic, to get shampoo, and that's annoying. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but it's the thing that infuriates me about that is it is us structuring society to accommodate the lawbreakers instead of structuring society to accommodate the taxpayers and those of us who pay for the buses and the bus drivers.
I live in Midtown.
And
Murray Hill. My Duane Reade, the local Duane Reade, which no longer has extended hours, used to be 24 hours, is locked down tighter than Fort Knox.
Yeah.
And we don't have the actual crime numbers that we were at 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. Quality of life is infinitely worse.
It is. It's absolutely worse. And it's on so many levels. The parks, like, it's dirty. You can't go sit down on a park bench with your kid because there's somebody who's a drug addict who's, is the sort of person who would have been arrested for any number of quality of life offenses multiple times beforehand. And And I know I can just hear, because I've been around like super lefty, progressive, liberal people, that I know what people think, which is like, you can't arrest someone for being a drug addict. Well, first of all, the drug addicts are committing tons of crime in our city. And also, the alternative at a certain point is to let people just lie and die on the street. It's like, that is not progressive. That is not compassionate. And it's
cruel.
not, it is really deeply cruel. And so it frustrates me so much, because the promises that we're getting out of this defund, decarceration, restorative justice crowd, they don't work. They certainly don't work for me. I don't like paying higher taxes and getting a less safe, less livable city. But it also doesn't work for the people that they're supposedly saving, right? Those are the people who wind up dying of a slower death on the street. And the criminal justice system can be a place to help some addicts. It's not the perfect place. I wouldn't want to be trying to kick a drug problem in a jail. But some people do. Like, you do actually, or you are able to get some people when they hit rock bottom and they're ready to clean themselves out, they can get help. But you have to get them off the street.
True.
You know, part of like the culture wars we're in today is language. And some years back, I started hearing decarceration. Right. I'm an incarceration kind of guy. That was my career.
Yes.
Then you hear the words decarceral.
Right.
I'm like, what are you talking about? And that really kind of grew into this ideology. And then when Alvin Bragg first ran, and it wasn't like people, I don't know if people don't pay attention. You got to pay attention to the details. His day one memo.
Oh, I know.
I was still serving in the police
Right.
department at the time, and I read it. And I'm like, this is absolutely insane what this man's proposing.
He's a George Soros funded and George Soros, follower. The philosophy of George Soros, which is the decarceration, and it's really deeply radical. It's an abolitionist idea. When they say abolition, they mean abolish jails. Like, we shouldn't have people in jail. I mean, it's really, really extreme. So it's, you take these ideas out of academia, and then enough people get elected, like the DSA city council people we have who want to get rid of the gang database, and they say they want to defund. Then you win the primary and you're in the general, and so you start saying, oh, no, I don't want to defund. But if you peel that back a little bit, they say they want a community, what's it called? The Public Safety, Department of Public Safety, thank you. The Department of Public Safety.
Social workers.
Yeah, they want to send social workers to do a cop's job.
We'll be
I'm
calling
sorry,
the police when they
but
have a problem.
Yeah, of course. Or just not going. They can't, I'm sorry, but when you have a violent, emotionally disturbed person attacking someone on the street, social workers aren't trained to deal with that. Like, there's no part of it. And if you hear Mamdani even now talking about it, his language, which is all this theoretical garbage that you learn in their like DSA meetups, is about how we have all these situations that we shouldn't send police for. But that guy was in Uganda at his wedding or his thing. Like, he didn't have social workers standing outside his compound in Uganda. Like, give me a break. He had like armed security standing around because he knows what you need to be kept safe. He just doesn't care about my kids or the rest of the kids on the subway who need to be safe when they're on their way to school.
He's brought this up repeatedly about the Department of Public Safety.
Yes.
There's no depth to what he says about
No.
what will this entail.
Right.
Well, it'll be this, it'll be that, it'll be
Yeah.
rainbows and unicorns, whatever. And I look at it this way. I'm like, this is going to be an employment program for thousands of these knuckleheads that probably otherwise couldn't be gainfully employed because they're just not equipped for it. So you're throwing this out there, and then the alarm bell goes off in my head. What do we go through with de Blasio and his wife, Charlene? Thrive NYC.
Yep.
$2.5 billion, and $1 billion went missing. Lord knows where the money went. So now you're throwing this out there. And if doing it to the degree that he's talking about, you're talking a major new city agency. Like, this is absolutely insane. It's redundant. We already have those agencies in place. But to call it the Department of Public Safety, I have no idea what this guy's envisioning, except it just sounds like more chaos.
It's more to it. The city charter requires a police department. am I correct? They'd have to change the city charter to do a lot of what they're proposing.
I don't know if they'd have to change the city charter or not, but I think he can redirect a lot of funds the way, and Pete, your point is well taken about Thrive. There's a lot of ways to redirect money without changing the city charter. And I do think that it's an empty campaign promise, the Department of Public Safety.
What I wanted to ask you is if he wins, in your opinion, do you think his ideas will spread around the country?
No. I have such mixed feelings about if he wins or not, because I always have to root for New York City. So I want us to have to do well despite Mamdani being our mayor. I want New York to do well, but I actually think it's going to be a disaster. And I think Republicans around the country will point to New York. Look what's going on in Chicago right now. That Mayor Brandon, he signed away every last penny of the city to the teachers union. He's had one terrible idea after the other. More people are dying, weekend by weekend. The numbers are getting worse in Chicago because he's a terrible mayor with terrible ideas. He has the same recipe, the same ideology as a Mamdani, right? It's this far left extremism. And I think that's the big risk we run, is is turning into a Chicago. Look at Portland or San Francisco or other cities that have gone really far left and are now starting to tack back a little bit. I don't want to go so far down the wrong path before we pull back again. But if you look at I was in college here in the early 90s. If you look at the early 90s and the crime rate and how bad things were, and yes, there were different factors going on and there was a drug wars going on all over, but things had to get really, really bad before we elected a mayor who said, we're going to clean things up and we're going to make things better. And that I don't want things to have to get so much worse before we tack back to the center.
Just a point of warning that occurs to me a lot, that Kevin and I, the captain, we were in this bad movie once before.
Yeah.
We know how it ends. It was bad. But at that time, when we were still working in the police department, we still had laws on the books. Mm-hmm. We still had prosecutors that prosecuted. Mm-hmm. People went to jail. Bad guys got taken off the street. And once the focus came in with the Giuliani administration, we crushed it. Right. Crime was crushed. This city was on the brink of collapse. Right. This time, we have progressives hold Albany. Mm-hmm. They hold the city council. Mm-hmm. We're essentially a captured city at this point. Mm-hmm. We don't have those tools on the books anymore. Right. We don't have those laws. And this could not only get bad, it could get very bad very fast.
But the thing is, we do all the laws that of what is a crime are still the laws on them. Like the penal law hasn't changed, right? We have had the bail reform, the less is more, the raise the age, all of these other laws. The penal law hasn't changed. It is still actually a crime to walk into the Duane Reade and steal anything. We just don't have a prosecutor who wants to prosecute those crimes.
It's the law's being enforced by the police department, but it's not being prosecuted by the DA's office.
Which is the point I wanted to bring up. What is Bragg's decline prosecution rate?
Oh my gosh. The numbers are, it is incredibly frustrating. There are, I think at this point, I don't know if it's 60% or 70% of the felonies being reduced to misdemeanors. And he's higher than Cy Vance, the district attorney who preceded him. And he is also dismissing 2/3 of the misdemeanors who come into his office. They don't even get a reduction. They're just being dismissed outright. So, yes, we have laws on the book that changed in Albany that legitimately tie the hands of some prosecutors. Some of the discovery laws make it harder for them to, but there's nothing stopping him from prosecuting every petty larceny in the city. You can. It's a crime and you can prosecute those crimes. His day one memo was a declaration of all the crimes he simply would not prosecute, including resisting arrest, which I still find, talk about it all the time, I still find it, it's like saying, go ahead, be a lawless city to the criminals. And I think most New Yorkers really can see the day-to-day difference in what our city looks like because of Alvin Bragg, but not everyone knows it's because of Alvin Bragg. Not everybody knows about the Day One memo. They know that there's more emotionally disturbed people who are violent and scary on the streets and on the subway. They know what their pharmacy looks like, and we know that our taxes go up while our quality of life goes down. It is very deeply related to Alvin Bragg's decision-making, because when you just stop prosecuting whole categories of crime, you're going to have a less safe city.
Or when the district attorney's office, all of them, 5 boroughs, especially Manhattan now, they look to prosecute. Instead of looking for more evidence for a better prosecution against the perpetrator, they're looking for evidence to go against the cop.
Yeah.
What could he have done different, or what did he do wrong?
Yeah.
Don't do that. Get more evidence against the perpetrator, not the cop.
Yeah, and I'll
it
tell
seemed
you,
like they make the police officer the perpetrator.
not only are they really an anti-cop office, and you're 100% right about that, they also, to my endless shock, will prosecute people who should be thanked. Like people who, or people who should be consoled, like Jose Alba, the guy in the bodega who had to fight for his life.
Right.
That was on video. That was the clearest case of self-defense. I've tried multiple self-defense cases in front of a jury. Like, that is not complicated for any prosecutor to understand. That guy, Jose Alba, had no means of egress. He had no way to get out of that situation. He was behind the counter. He was being beaten and assaulted, and he was fighting for his life. If that case hadn't popped up, and when I think about, the Daniel Penny case, it's hard not to think about the young Ukrainian refugee, Irina, who was stabbed in Charlotte. I mean, that's the kind of harm, that kind of dangerous murder that Daniel Penny was seeking to stop, right? And everyone wants to say, oh, you don't know what would have happened on that day. The person that he stopped had fractured somebody's skull on the subway before. That what's his name? Jordan Neely had multiple arrests before, including violent assaults. They've also arrested a CVS worker who was, put in a situation of having someone who would have in previous administrations already been locked up, having to defend himself. And there's Brian Chin, a landlord in Chinatown, who also had to physically defend himself from somebody who should have been in jail already. And Alvin Bragg arrests these people, and he prosecutes some of them. And it's like, you want to talk about your priorities being wrong. Not only are you not locking up the people you should, you're then prosecuting the people you shouldn't. So he couldn't be more bad at his job.
True.
People will ask me about the subways. I says, well, it's a crapshoot. It's 50-50 shot. Still the quickest way to get around.
That's how I got here.
But you just don't know what you're going to get when those doors open.
Right.
A couple of weeks back, I get on the train, and I was assailed by this foul odor, and it was some homeless guy who took his shoes off.
Right. Oof.
So, all right, I'll move to the other end of the car. But when I get to the other end of the car, I see people starting to, trying to move back.
Yeah.
There was a homeless person there, and he wasn't being outwardly insane. He was eating fried rice. And after every scoop of fried rice, he'd take his spoon and go and splatter people with fried rice. I'm going 2 stops.
Right.
All I want to do is just get to where I want to go. But the point being, when people say, oh, you get a lot from young people, oh, you're old boomers, you're afraid of the subway. I'm not afraid of the subway. What I'm afraid of, having been a cop, number one, is I'm not going to stand by and allow somebody to be assaulted. My biggest fear is what's going to happen to me after I do it. Because I know exactly who's coming after me. And I'm not worried about bad guys. It shouldn't be that we have to worry about what a prosecutor is going to do to law-abiding citizens.
Sure. Getting back to the misdemeanors, it plays right into Mondani's hands.
Of course.
Because he said he wants to get rid of misdemeanors.
I know.
And so he could work with Bragg. The two of them.
They're a deadly combination for our city. People will die on their watch. They're absolutely terrible for this city. I mean, I don't even think they understand, but so many domestic violence calls are assault 3s. They are misdemeanor cases. I mean, some of them are more serious and the injury is more serious. But what a privileged, ridiculous life you've led if you think that you can just do away with misdemeanor offenses. Like, what's a woman who's being beaten by her boyfriend or her husband, what's she supposed to do? Like, you call the police, and they're going to be like, we don't do this anymore. Like we're not arresting
You
people
call
for misdemeanors.
social worker.
Yeah, and what's the social worker going to do when, I mean, like, it's so ridiculous. But it sounds good to the base of people that voted for him because it seem to impact their life, and he hasn't had to answer very hard questions about that. But the combination of his bad ideas and Bragg's already existing bad ideas is a really bad combination for our city.
One thing about Zoran is that when you say he doesn't answer questions, he'll answer a question. It's a word salad of nonsense every time, especially if it's a tough question.
Right.
Bragg, you just don't hear anything.
No, I don't know where he is. I think he's hiding. Like, by the way, everyone else is getting ready for their debates. Bragg will not agree to a debate. His head is down. He's acting like there's, that he doesn't have an election. And I understand the politics of it, but you're seeking to be, reelected to a position as serious as a Manhattan District DA. He should be willing to step forward and have a debate.
Is he receiving public funding?
Neither of us are, because you don't get public funding in the district attorney's race.
Because that requires 2 debates, I believe.
Yes.
Right, that's interesting. So the DA's...
He can just hide out, which is what he's doing.
Yeah, but Soros got him covered.
Yeah.
Getting beyond city politics, we had the recent assassination of Kirk.
Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, can you discuss national legal law enforcement issues that concern you?
Yeah, first of all, what a tragedy. So unbelievably sad. And I just, I was talking to some folks last night about what it's going to look like several years from now, the impact that this is going to have. And I certainly do hope it has an impact because, we have a problem in our cities. Our cities are really have a law enforcement problem and have a public safety problem. Law enforcement isn't being, Kevin, you're 100% right about cops can still arrest people and do their jobs 100%, but if you don't have the other side, the prosecutors doing their job, and I think what we see with the national conversation and around, Charlie Kirk going to campuses and talking to people, there's an appetite for something different, for something better than this. Yes, the DSA, they have parts of Albany and, the city council, but there is an appetite for something better, for something that says we want to live in safety and we want to have, cities that function well, schools that are run better, that people aren't just being pushed on sort of an ideological bend. But it's like, nationally, I see this interesting conversation happen, but then you get to New York City and it gets harder, right? New York State, maybe not, but New York City, it gets harder to have that conversation. And then when you get to Manhattan, which is my borough, it's hard because it is very, very, very blue and progressive, although I think it's a fake kind of progressivism. And so I think we are like, Manhattanites don't like to think of themselves as terribly behind the curve. People like to think of themselves as knowing being in the know and being forward. But I think big cities are bringing up the rear in terms of the conversation about how to fix what's going wrong.
True. Yeah.
It could turn into Escape from New York. Do you remember that movie?
Yes, indeed.
Real time, Maud, another question too. I know, Pete, you're aware of this as well. In the Manhattan DA's office, right, they have the investigative squad, which is NYPD detectives, and then you have also retirees, mostly retirees. I'm not sure about the retirees, how big their squad is, but I know the NYPD detective squad in the Manhattan DA's office used to be 25, 30 men and women. I think it's down to about 4 or 5 today. So would you want to up
Staff
that and try to...
Of course. I mean, it doesn't... Bragg is such a bad district attorney on a lot of different levels. The day one memo that everybody talks about and the decisions that he's made, but some of it's just what he's not doing. It's like there's a lot of corruption that can be prosecuted and a lot of sort of long-term investigations that could easily yield prosecution, to create the sort of prosecution that those offices have traditionally done, that those units have traditionally done. He's just not doing it. It's really not, he's not particularly interested. It's very strange. He doesn't seem very interested in being in the job of a prosecutor. But I don't, I think that when you are wedded to an ideological point of view, which is his sort of decarceration, then it ties your hands to be the sort of prosecutor who would build a successful investigatory unit, who would build make sure the rackets, divisions are fully staffed and able to investigate corruption, to do all of the work that, look, Morgenthau was a DA who knew how to run that office for many, many years, and he was the district attorney when I was practicing as a public defender. I saw what it looked like when the office was run under him. Cy Vance didn't make a very big impact one way or the other, but Bragg has made a very big impact. He's really implemented his ideological positions in a way that I think too many New Yorkers don't understand how much his decision-making impacts our day-to-day life. The crime problem is directly attributable to many of the decisions that he makes.
True. Very true. Well said. Yeah.
Well, I think for the second time in person, this was a great interview.
I'm very happy to be here.
Many of our listeners and viewers may not realize that the first one was by Zoom.
Yes.
Well, you were out on Fire Island.
Because I messed up.
But it's great to have you here, and just a very good interview. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure to talk to you guys.
How is the campaign going so far?
Look, the campaign is absolutely fantastic when I talk to people on the street, because I keep getting the Jerry Maguire line. I tell people, hi, my name is Maud Maron. I'm running against Alvin Bragg for Manhattan District Attorney. And they say, you had me at running against Alvin Bragg. Which is
good.
From Jerry Maguire. So there's that. Now, I could use an extra, $1 million or so to be able to email everybody, text everybody, and send mailers to people, because politics is still politics. You need money to run it. And one of the things that's really frustrating is, while the big donors in our city are freaking out about how to stop Zoran Mamdani, because lots of people want to stop him, and there's this drama with Curtis Sliwa and Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo all running against him, they haven't stepped up to the plate in a way that I wish they would, to say we can defeat Alvin Bragg, and I know we can. At the end of the day, you don't need dollars, you need votes. So we can take the situation into our own hands and vote him out, but the dollars would be really helpful to help people know when they, when they can vote him out.
As always. Well, if anyone wanted to get involved with your campaign, volunteer or donate, of course, how would they go about that?
You can go to maudformanhattan.com. It's Maud, M-A-U-D, and for the word F-O-R, maudformanhattan.com. You can sign up to volunteer. You can write to us. You can donate. You can come to events that we have going on. It's all on the website. Oh. And thank you for asking.
Oh, thank you. In closing, Sergeant?
Well, I know who I'm voting for come election day.
You can. That's right.
I don't know the demographics of the audience, but for anybody, if you live in Manhattan, if you value your safety and the safety of your family, and to stop this insanity, people have to get out and vote.
True.
And that's key. And vote for Maud on election day is a vote for a much better future than what we have right now.
True. I live in Manhattan, so I agree with you.
All right. You got a lot more. We're the majority, the Manhattanites. I love it. Yeah. Excellent.
Born and raised in Manhattan, but not here yet.
Tell your
not
friends.
Not back yet.
Tell your friends.
Friends and family. Friends and family. But Maud, Maron, thank you very much for being here today. It's the Republican candidate for Manhattan District Attorney. We wish you luck, and maybe we'll have you on again before the election.
Would love that.
Thank you again for being here. I also like to thank the great Sergeant, Pete Panucci. Thank you very much, Sarge, for being here. And, of course, the great Captain.
Great Captain. All right, the great Captain will end this session by saying thank you again.
Thank you so much, guys.
So I'd like to thank everyone for listening to another episode of Cop Talk. If you like what you hear, you could subscribe to Cop Talk. You could also follow us on X at Cop Talk WABC. That's at Cop Talk WABC. And, of course, all social media as well. I know, Captain, you want to talk about the social media?
Yes, you can be viewed. Well, I believe it's YouTube and some others, because you're being filmed.
Yes.
That's why I'm glad you're here.
I had to let Captain say that, or he would give me a CD later. Man, discipline. But I'd like to thank everyone for listening, and God bless you, God bless America, God bless our military, and also God bless law enforcement throughout our country. Thank you. Be safe.
This is Cop Talk.